the hospital this morning after a terrible accident in Brooklyn. It happened about 11 o'clock last night. A van hit an ambulance that was on its way to a call. 2 EMS workers, 3 other people seriously hurt. One of those workers is in extremely critical condition right now at Brookdale Hospital. Check the ride to work shadow traffic. And Karen Stewart. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Maurice. And we've got some great news for everybody on Monday morning. For the first time in a while, you'll be looking forward to Monday. Lincoln Tunnel, 59th Street Bridge, as well as the Midtown Tunnel. Those SOV restrictions will be lifted, so you can head over to those crossings on your own starting Monday morning. Again, commercial vehicles allowed inbound at the Holland as well. Let's take a quick check on the Panasonic Skycam of the Bell Parkway. Westbound, your heavy Kennedy Airport to Lefferts Boulevard. And if you're a GW commuter, inbound Upper Deck 20, downstairs 15 minutes. Maurice, back to you in the studio.
All right, thanks. Quick look at the weekend.
Well, cooling down. Temperatures today will be in the low 80s in the city, 70s along the coast, with a mix of clouds and sun. Watch for an isolated shower storm into tonight, but much cooler. Upper 60s tomorrow, upper 50s by Sunday with some rain Sunday night and Monday.
Very nice. Thank you, Chris. Monday morning on Today in New York, a new technique to get rid of back pain. We'll show you 5 to 7 Monday morning. Have a great weekend.
Today at 6, a Hamptons getaway.
I'm Carolyn Gussoff. It is the ultimate summer hotspot. So why is the summer rental market so lukewarm this year? And are there bargains in it for you?
Today on News Channel 4 at 6.
When I play lottery, I pick the numbers according to my husband and my son's soccer jerseys.
Well, I walk into the deli, and then I just pray that the person in front of me and in back of me loses.
I like to play the numbers on the fortune cookie.
I kind of dabble in electronics on the weekends. But like most people, I have what you'd call a termite problem. So I invented this little beauty. It will identify, pinpoint, and destroy all termite species.
Here's a better idea. More homeowners trust the Terminex Unlimited Lifetime Protection Plan, featuring Centricon. 1-800-Terminex. No bugs, no hassles.
Your search for the gold standard stops here. The all-new 2002 Chevy Trailblazer. It's the most powerful midsize SUV on the planet, with better highway fuel economy than Ford Explorer, and the most standard towing capacity in its class. Go for the gold with the lease as low as $369 a month on a Trailblazer 4-wheel drive LS. Residency restrictions apply. Call for important lease details. See your local Chevy dealer.
Rosie O'Donnell opens her heart to share the amazing experience that changed her life forever. Read Find Me by Rosie O'Donnell, wherever books are sold.
AIDS is still a crisis, period.
AIDS Walk New York. Register today at AIDSWalk.net or call 212-807-WALK.
And we're back at 7:30 on this Friday morning, the 19th of April, 2002. Lots of people outside our studio on this beautiful Friday morning. Temperatures in the 70s, going up into the low to mid-80s today. A lot cooler than it's been over the past couple of days, and hopefully those temperatures will last through the weekend. Al's going to tell us more about that in a few minutes. Meanwhile, in Studio 1A, I'm Matt Lauer along with Ann Curry. Katie's on assignment this morning. She'll be back on Monday. And Ann, coming up in this half hour, a different way to look at the crisis in the Middle East. After centuries of conflict, can the two sides actually find common ground? Well, we brought together a group of people, some pro-Israeli, some pro-Palestinian, some right in the middle. And we presented arguments for both sides, and then we used the latest technology to measure their reactions.
We're going to show you the surprising results in just a moment, and we want to know what you think. You can log on to our website at today.msnbc.com and answer the question, can the Israelis and the Palestinians ever find common ground and live in peace? We're going to have the results for you at the end of this half hour.
And that technology is very interesting. We'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. But first, let's get a check of the weather. Mr. Roker's outside with that.
That's right. Big crowd today. As you can see, all the way around our plaza. Let's take a look, show you what's going on as far as your weather's concerned. We'll show you for this weekend wet weather in the mid-Atlantic states, warm through the south, clouds in the Pacific Northwest. And then on Sunday, we're looking at cool weather in the northeast, strong storms mid-Atlantic, back through Texas, warm in the southwest, and we're expecting a decent day in the Pacific Northwest. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Okay, Mr. Roker, up to 67 degrees. We've got a partly sunny sky out there right now. A day that's not going to be quite as warm as the last few have been, and that will be the trend Jet stream, which steers weather systems across the country, is steering the warm air back down to the south, where it really does belong this time of the year, and somewhat cooler air pushing in our direction for the weekend. Also pushing in later today, maybe an isolated shower or thunderstorm, about 82, cooler along the coast. Tonight, an evening shower or thunderstorm, low 58. Tomorrow, clouds, some sun, upper 60s, upper 50s Sunday, thickening clouds, rain. Sunday night into Monday, Monday's high near 60.
That's your latest weather. Now back inside the net.
All right, Al, thank you. This morning we want to take a different look at the story dominating the headlines all over the world for the past couple of weeks. A story of epic struggle, the war between Israelis and Palestinians. Secretary of State Colin Powell returned to the United States without a ceasefire and with little hope of finding a peaceful solution anytime soon. So we decided to talk about this in a different way, one that's never been seen on morning television. We hired ASI Entertainment, a national advertising and entertainment research company, to recruit an audience of an equal number of people who identify themselves as either pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli, and some who said they felt largely neutral. Using the most advanced instantaneous response measurement system available, the audience can watch as each side makes an argument while we measure their reaction. The group we've assembled literally tells us what they're thinking. The blue line of the graph identifies the reaction of the pro-Israeli group. The green line is the reaction of the pro-Palestinian group, and the yellow is the neutral group. When a line goes toward the top of the screen, that's a positive reaction. A line toward the bottom of the screen is a negative reaction. The steeper the line, the more extreme the reaction. Now, the reaction we wanted to measure, their feelings about both sides of the story, Israeli and Palestinian. This is not a scientific test, but to be as fair as possible, we flipped a coin to see which opinion to show first. We started with James Zogby, president of the Arab American Institute, a syndicated columnist and advocate for Palestinian human rights. And remember, the blue line is the pro-Israeli group, the green line is the pro-Palestinian group, and the yellow line, those in the middle. Let's watch.
Does he have the political ability? The answer is yes, and he has, in fact, in the past, done just that. But when the peace process isn't working, when Israel is behaving as an occupying aggressor, it's very difficult to use that authority. And finally, now that Sharon has destroyed so much of the infrastructure of the authority, it's even more difficult. The Sharon government has functioned in a way not to calm, but rather to aggravate. Even when there were periods of calm, Sharon would then turn to assassinating a couple of Palestinian leaders, knowing full well that it would create a backlash. So that the situation gradually spiraled out of control, I think control that the Israelis wanted to see lost by the Palestinian Authority, so that they could ultimately justify this kind of aggression. A third party needs to enter into the situation to separate the two. There needs to be a dramatic transformation on the ground. It can't just be Band-Aids on buildings. Palestinians need to feel hope. And that can only come both in the form of political hope, when they feel that they'll get their state and the Israelis will be off their backs and out of their lives. And secondly, they need to have economic hope. They need to know that they're going to get a job, that they're going to have a future, that they're going to have a real life. I think that the U.S. needs to play a very powerful leadership role. If America is not going to provide that kind of leadership role, then we need to step aside and let the United Nations or some other international agency do it. We know Jews, we don't know Arabs. And that's the story we get, the story of Jewish suffering versus this intractable Arab problem that just won't go away. And at the end of the day, that Arab problem is really Arab people, Palestinian Arab people who've lost their land, who've been dispossessed, who are corralled in the little towns and villages that can't get out and have their land stolen from them to build settlements for some guy from New York who has no right being there in the first place. And that's what we get.
That was James Zogby, president of the Arab American Institute. Remember, when you see the lines on your screen on the graph, the lines that move to the bottom of the screen are a negative reaction. They show strong disagreement. As the lines move to the top of the screen, that shows strong agreement. Next, we showed our audience a view from the other side. We asked exactly the same questions of Zev Chafetz. He was a soldier in the Israeli army, a former member of the Israeli government, and is now an editorial writer for the New York Daily News. Again, the blue line is the pro-Israeli reaction, the green line is the pro-Palestinian reaction, and the yellow line is neutral. Let's watch.
maybe he does and maybe he doesn't, but I'm positive that he doesn't have the desire to end the attack. Arafat, invented Palestinian terrorism, and there's no reason for me to suppose that in his old age he would stop doing what he's been doing all this time. And so I think that the question really is not whether he can stop it, but, well, really there's no question at all, because I think he won't stop it. He doesn't want to. I think that any society which is confronted by suicide bombers has the absolute obligation to go after whoever is bombing its civilians and to put a stop to it through whatever means are necessary. The end of the cycle of bombings and reprisals will come when the bombing stops, because the reprisals are responses to the bombing. What that takes, I believe, will be a Palestinian understanding, and maybe a broader Arab understanding, that the price that they will pay is greater than the benefit that they can derive from killing Israeli civilians. America's role ought to be to stand with Israel, to provide Israel political support and encouragement. I don't think Israel needs American soldiers. I'm sure that it doesn't. What it needs is a feeling that it's not alone in the world, that America is prepared to stand with Israel because America and Israel have common values and common enemies. I think the mainstream press has by and large been fair. I think that there's a certain desire on the part of many people, an understandable desire, to find a solution to this. Unfortunately, there are some situations, and one of them is when people come to blow up your children, or people have decided that your country doesn't have the right to exist legitimately, that the answer isn't reason. First of all, the answer is force. Then the answer is reason.
Now, you've heard both sides. When we come back, we'll hear from the people we brought together and take a look at some of the surprises in our experiment. We'll be back right after this.
My two great-grandfathers, Henry Ford and Harvey Firestone, used to take these camping trips every year with Thomas Edison and whoever the president at the time was. They sort of invented SUVs. I love the outdoors. I won't even stay in a hotel if I can't open the windows. Our SUVs provide a great deal of freedom, and we do them better than anybody else. When you get it right, you just know it. Then it's really fun.
Spell microphone.
K-E-Y M-O-U-S-E Mickey Mouse forever as a old
You were the first Disney generation. Now come be a kid again at our spectacular year-long tribute to Walt's 100th birthday. Call 1-407-W-Disney.
After 100 years of giving you our best, one event had to be even bigger. The JCPenney 100th Anniversary Sale. These are the final days for the lowest prices of the season. Plus, a chance to win the 100th Anniversary Sweepstakes with incredible prizes, including thousands of $100 JCPenney gift cards. Hurry in for the lowest prices of the season. It's all inside JCPenney.
Thinking about making the switch to Clarinex? Talk to your doctor to see if Clarinex is right for you. Call 1-800-CLARINEX for your 7-day free trial. Experience Clarinex.
Soulmates, buddies, your better half. You just aren't you without them. Like coffee's not coffee without Coffee Mate. So smooth, so velvety, so much more than just coffee. Coffee Mate from Nestle. Coffee's perfect mate.
Come on, you can do it. Just 30 seconds of Listerine, twice a day. Sure, it's a little intense, but think of all the germs you're killing. Listerine even kills the germs that can cause plaque and the gum disease gingivitis. That's right, you're fighting plaque and gingivitis every time. Keep it up, keep it up. Don't wimp out now. There. See? You can handle it. Germs can't. Listerine. Worth the time, every time.
For Marie Callender, every recipe began the same way, with care. and her country fried chicken was no exception. Marie served it up with mashed potatoes, slowly whipped with real cream. And corn, well, Marie thought it best eaten right off the cob. Marie Callender put her heart into everything she made, and to this day, we're still making it Marie's way. Marie Callender's, made with the care of Marie.
Look for 12 delicious new recipes from Marie Callender's.
Now to the heart of the matter and the real test between both sides in this battle. In our last segment, we showed an audience of pro-Palestinians, pro-Israelis, and undecideds the comments of two experts, Zev Chapitz, a New York Daily News columnist and former member of the Israeli government, and James Zogby, president of the Arab American Institute. As you might expect, the pro-Palestinian group agrees with the views of James Zogby, the green line moving toward the top of the screen. But here's a surprise. The
Drowsiness, dizziness, and diarrhea. You shouldn't take it with alcohol. Patients who abuse prescription sleep aids may become dependent. Prescription sleep aids are most often taken for 7 to 10 days if needed. Your doctor
group certainly does not. Those who consider themselves neutral were all over the map. But we wanted to know more, so we chose 6 audience members, 2 from each camp, who seemed willing.
Israel, they want security, and they have this situation where they're surrounded by essentially foreign territory, and of course the Palestinians want security and their own state. The common ground is they both want security. They want to live in that regard.
I think the common ground, excuse me, I'm sorry, the common ground that ultimately will triumph is the desire of the majority of both peoples for peace and security. That ultimately will see light. It's not extremism. I think that the fact that always has to be emphasized, that most Israelis and most Palestinians want peace. They want coexistence.
If Israel pulls its troops out of the occupied territories, they are going to expect an end to the suicide bombings and the violence against their civilians. Is that a reasonable expectation?
No.
Yes, it is. It's not going to happen.
Yes. No. It's not reasonable because there's too much feeling on the part of a substantial group of Palestinians, and particularly an extreme group as it's called, Hamas, etc., that they are getting even for all of the suffering they have undergone for decades now.
I disagree. I think in December there was a ceasefire on the Palestinians' part. Arafat asked everybody ceasefire. For 3 weeks there was not one attack on Israelis, and then all of a sudden Palestinian was targeted and assassinated from an F-16 in the air. And I thought it was a ceasefire. We stopped for 3 weeks. There was no suicide bombings. Suicide bombings did stop, and Hamas already declared years ago that go back to the 1967 borders and we'll stop our activities.
So you're talking about a ceasefire where Yasser Arafat told everyone, stop the bombing, stop the violence, and it stopped. And now people are saying, Yasser Arafat, you can stop the violence again, and he's saying, maybe I can't. Who's telling the truth? Can't he stop the violence now but is unwilling?
He can't stop it. Right now he's basically in a room.
Stop it.
He's in a room right now.
But he has people working for him. He has
he has the ability to come out strongly against this suicide bombing. He could do it today, but he won't do it. He refuses to do it.
Does Yasser Arafat want peace?
Yes or no?
I strongly believe he wants peace, and that he has made that the sun is.
I think the Palestinians want peace, but I don't know if Arafat wants peace.
Well, I think Arafat wants peace, but without his...
Arafat he's representing the will of the Palestinian people, and he has to listen to many sides of the Palestinian spectrum. Right now, the majority of the Palestinians' first desire is to end the occupation. Without that, the end of the occupation, there will always be continued violence. And it could be, the violence is not only on the Palestinian side that's perpetuated, it's also by the Israeli occupation itself.
We were never offered a state. We were offered autonomy. It's a big difference.
I think on the Israeli side of the thinking, it's also a security concern. So if those areas were to be withdrawn from, there has to be a certain trust. And the only way that can develop is first starting with this certain kind of ceasefire.
Does Ariel Sharon want peace?
Not really.
No.
I think he wants security and he wants to use the military, but his whole history is not peaceful. His whole history has been as a military man, He certainly doesn't want suicide bombings, I'm sure of that. But as long as there's turmoil, Israel doesn't have to give up what it's got. And he was very responsible for a lot of the settlements that are currently in existence in Palestine. And I think there's a real question whether either of these men want peace.
Not too long ago, he wanted to pound the Palestinians into submission, which he's obviously doing right now.
He's doing it now so he can get rid of the terrorists, your people that are the extremists that you can't control. That's what he's doing. That's what the United States did when they went into Afghanistan. They did the same thing. They took out the terrorists. These terrorists exist.
Afghanistan and I mean, we're not occupying Afghanistan.
These terrorists exist in Palestine. They exist all throughout the Arab world.
In Israel too.
And they
in the settlements.
The terrorists.
Yes, so a lot of them.
Okay, so that's where they went into the
They killed Rabin. That shows they wanted peace. Killing Rabin shows we want peace.
I think that Sharon doesn't want peace.
He wants peace. Of course they have an economy there.
Maybe he doesn't want a Palestinian state there, but he does want peace.
Is it time to find new leaders in that region who possibly can bring peace, whereas Sharon and Arafat have been unable?
You need a moderate lead. You need a moderate Arab to take control.
Until that happens, we have to work with the leaders we have. We cannot make choices on what's going to happen next year, next century. Right now, we have two horrible leaders on both sides, I believe. And the U.S. can go a long way in harnessing its power to make sure that both sides can come to agreement.
America. How much influence does this country have, and has it used its influence correctly in the recent past?
No. It has a lot of influence. It can use it correctly. In fact, the Bush administration has SAG on his hand for more than 15 months right now, doing nothing. So they let the Middle East sort of fester. For several months, too little, too late.
Today, which is more important, I think it's essential that the United States get involved in a major way. A la what Carter did years ago, what Clinton tried to do.
And that is something that Bush could do. Instead of sending Powell over there, he could go over there. That would be a tremendous gesture.
And risk his prestige coming back empty-handed.
Well, listen.
Well, it's more a sign of courage, I think, and real willingness to say, I'm going to get my hands in here, and look, I am a part of this.
If there is going to be true peace in the Middle East, two independent states with security and freedom, is it going to take the building of a wall, a physical wall?
It just might have to.
Between Palestine and Israel?
I disagree with that. I believe that there is a possibility of both sides living together based on the peace movement on both sides. I think if land is given back to the Palestinians and a chance for feelings, emotional, political, and historical feelings are realized, they will want to live with the Israelis, because both sides are intelligent, educated, and they know it is in the living together that ultimately that whole region will survive.
We want to thank all the audience members who participated in our discussion, and ASI Entertainment for all their assistance in technology. We also wanted to let you know the results of the question that we asked you. Can the Israelis and Palestinians ever find common ground and live in peace? Here's what you said. 30% of you said yes. 70% of you said no. They can never live in peace. And we thank all the people who participated. It is now 50 past the hour. We're back right after this.